G'day ladies and gentlemen, ScottyD here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome into our next installment in our Sprue to Tabletop series. Alrighty ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the next installment in our From Sprue to Tabletop series here on the ATWN. And for today's video in this series, we're going to take a little bit of a deviation away from the traditional From Sprue to Tabletop videos we've done so far, where we're not going to be focusing on a model per se. We're going to be focusing on something that's a bit adjacent to the hobby, as it's been something that I've been doing for quite a while and I've found very helpful in a lot of different ways. And we're going to be looking at paint recipe books or paint journals and hobbying journals. I've got my painting journal and my hobbying journal in front of me. So we're going to start off with painting journal or painting recipe book, as you could call it. Now, this is really helpful. And the reason why this is helpful is it gives you a spot to write down what paints you use for your army's color schemes. And it will give you a bit of direction if you start working on a force and then you have to take a couple of months off from working on it and you need to come back to it. So you're able to look at it and go, okay, this was for this section, this color was for this section, and so on and so forth. So what we have got, at least initially, we have got my Space Marines for my Champions of Salvation Space Marine chapter. We've got basically what I do for my armies. I'll show you what I do for my commissions and explain a bit more as to why that might be helpful for newer hobbyists as well. But really here what I've got is I've kind of got a list of paints that I use for my base coats, my layers, my washes, my edge highlighting, and then what paints I specifically use for my basing. Now, majority of these paints are Games Workshop paints, but if I do use Vallejo or Scale 75 or Army Painter and such, I will note down a bit of difference on this list in terms of what I'm actually using brand-wise. So for what I've actually got in the brackets is actually the type of Citadel paint they are. So B's for base, L's for layer, A's for air, etc. Or W/S for wash or shade. So really, I've just got kind of the core colors that I use for each of the different areas. I don't really do too many tricky things with my Marines. I think the trickiest thing is just layering up, say, you Sharpie Bone over the top of Mournfang Brown. So just having Mournfang Brown in my base coats and then you Sharpie Bone in the layers will tell me, okay, when I do Purity Seals, that's the way I go. Or if I'm doing Cracked Stone as well for Tabards, then I know, okay, start off with Mournfang Brown, then get into Cracked Stone and such as well. And so I've also got the company trims on the side. I do like to kind of stay close to the Codex's kind of outline of what these shoulder pad trims should be. So we've got the colors for each of those as well. For the first 5 companies, of course, 10th company is normally no color, but I haven't started on anything past the 5th company at this stage. And so I just kind of note down what I've used, and if I've got a mix of colors, so say if I'm using the older Seraphim Sepia with a mix of soft tone from Army Painter, then it's like, okay, well, when I run out of that mix or when I get low in that pot, then I can refill with soft tone. Eventually, it will just become pure soft tone, or I might swap over to Sepia from Vallejo, for example. And so I just kind of note down what those different options are that I can use for that color scheme. And so the reason why this helps is depending if you play multiple armies, if you play multiple game systems, this can come in really handy. Because for me, I've also then got all my Deathwatch stuff, which is a massive deviation away from what my Marines are. Because not only do I have base coat colors, the layering, washes, edge highlights, and stuff for the bases, which is the same as my Marines, then I've also got the colors that I need to do the various chapter shoulder pads across the army. And I've even left an additional page there to be able to continue those shoulder pad colors if I do other chapters that I add in as well. Say, for example, Minotaurs or Mentors or some of these other chapters that have got shoulder pads in the Deathwatch kits. Then we just keep on going through, and I try to keep it to about a page per, if not 2 pages per army. So then we've got my Necron one, which my Necrons are really simple. You can see there's very few paints that are actually there. Probably about 20 paints maximum that I use for my Necrons. So that's something to bear in mind. The more paints you use, the more you will need to write down and such as well. Then I've got the color schemes that I did for my Deathwing when I painted up some Dark Angels Deathwing a while ago. I've also got some Dark Angels Greenwing there as well. And then some Grey Knights that I did quite a while ago. Now, I want to walk through what I actually do for my commissions a little bit. Now, some of you know that I've done commission painting on our Twitch channel. for some various projects over the years. However, this is going to be really helpful for newer hobbyists as well. So what we do here is, yes, we've got the list of all the colors in the relevant areas, whether that's base coating, layers, washes, or inks and highlights. But the real key takeaway for newer hobbyists is you might want to go in even simpler. So say for my Marines, I'll go, okay, the armor base coat, what is that armor color? And I just note that down as Cantor blue. When I'm doing the purity seals, the actual seal of it, I'm doing that as corn red. So those kind of things, I can kind of list out all the different details on the model like I've done here. And I've got the multiple colors that I did use for the Lionel Johnson commission, whether that's the armor, the brass, the leather, the sword, which the sword actually had a lot more than those 3 colors. So just adding those extra notes there allows you to be like, okay, I know what colors I'm going to put on what areas, because I'm only relatively new. Maybe I go a couple of weeks without a hobby session. I can't remember what colors I used on what areas when I last painted my models or where I'm up to. And so you can kind of do that for all the different areas. Now, I've done it where there's 3 to 5 different colors for the actual sections for this commission. But I also do the same thing when I was working on the Typhus commission. Same thing again, where we've got the different types of paints in the brackets from Citadel, or whether they're also Vallejo as well. And then, breaking it down in all the different sections. And going from there, basically. And so that kind of wraps up your painting journal. I do like to keep it at a smaller A5 size, just because if you travel around, you're going to a mate's place to do a hobby session, and you want to take your painting color schemes, and you know what colors you need. You can reference this for what colors you want to take, as well as what colors you want to paint your various areas, particularly if you're a newer hobbyist. And it's a lot easier to put around than an A4 book like we have for the hobbying journal. Now, the hobbying journal, this guy I have done for a number of years. It's my War and Grey plastic hobby journal, but you don't have to have it specifically for a particular challenge. So what I like to do with this one is I actually like to house a bit of motivation. So I'll do what my goals are for a year. So War and Grey plastics, it does help me with that. So I'm able to set out what my goals are, how I'm wanting to achieve it in a couple of different steps, and then my general thoughts on that. So it's a really good method to get into. You can keep track of your preparation, so what you're wanting to prepare, how much you're wanting to prepare and such as well. You can list out units with weapons, items you need to get, etc. You could even do color schemes in this section if you wanted to as well. And then we've also got a whole bunch of models that we're looking to do. And, you might have a whole bunch that are battle ready, for example, but you want to get into parade ready. So that's what we've done here is we've got all of these models. Back in 2020, I wanted to get to parade ready from battle ready. And so I was able to do that with a lot of them. We've got a little bit of a costing section that I like to have, where I like to compare how much I've actually purchased for the year compared to how much I've completed, because I do keep track of that. Particularly for the War and Grey Plastic Challenge, I find it's very helpful. And so it'll be like, okay, anything that's in pencil is basically what I haven't gotten to for that year. Everything that's in pen is completed. And so I'll keep track of that. I'll have a list of the order in which I want to do things. Now, sometimes you might find you might be doing an army from scratch, and you might be like, well, I don't want to paint all the infantry at once, but I also don't want to paint all the characters. And so what you can do is you can kind of go, well, I want to work on, say, 5 Hellblasters first, but then I also want to do a Primaris Chaplain. I've got a Chaplain and Jump Pack here, for example, but you could do a Primaris Chaplain. So you're able to jump between the various projects that you are working on as well, and be able to keep things fresh. Always break down your painting in the best batch painting that you find, and we're going to do a video on batch painting to kind of explain my methodology behind that as well when we get to working on the Necron Warrior, which is going to be our next model for the series. Then I kind of do a little bit of just kind of journaling and thoughts around, I'll do a mid-year update on what I've been doing, models and progress, as well as extra stuff that I might be doing in the background as well. And then, I do log all of the terrain that I've got here. So this is all the terrain that I currently own, what stage it was at in 2020, and kind of where I'm looking to take it from here, as well as stuff that I did work on and get assembled throughout the year as well. So you can kind of keep track of what you are doing throughout the year and not just at any one particular point. A proposed list of painting the terrain, but that's kind of gone out the window over the time. And sometimes in between years, you will want to keep just a blank page, just so then you can differentiate what you've done. And so I'll just kind of summarize what we do. Well, what I do, I should say, for the War and Grey Plastic Challenge, what my thoughts are, how I can change things up for the next year, where I actually end up for the year at the end of it. And then, you know, what am I wanting to work on for the next year, the order of painting, ticking off projects as I go and such as well. I might have new additions. So this was for a Deathwatch army list at the time that I purchased all of the models for. But at the same time, being cognizant of those purchases, I also had to complete a lot of models to be able to make that up in that year. And then just, you know, keeping up to date with, you know, how much did I finish? How much have I not finished? Etc. as well. And then obviously this was when I started my Necrons with Indominus and keeping track of that across the board as well when I was finishing things and doing an updated painting order. So it's really good to keep track of what models you have, what projects you're working on at various times throughout your years. You can also, in there, if you wanted to, not do like the War and Grey Plastic style, you can go, here's a list that I'm wanting to build and paint. So what I want to do for that list, I kind of want to break it down. You can do a rough order of painting and go, I want to work on a few units in this order, just so then you're able to break up into the best way you're able to paint. Alongside also, you could put your paint journal in here if you just wanted to keep the one book, or you could also keep track of just your entire collection in the book as well. So you're able to note, you know, what models you have for what factions, what you have available to use, what needs to be worked on if you're revamping armies and such as well. So it's a really good thing to have. You can keep notes on it throughout the year and just keep up to date with what projects you're working on, how the projects are progressing. If you've got certain milestones you're wanting to reach, so say for example, if you're getting ready for a tournament, you're wanting to get an army done, this would be a great way to help you stay accountable to yourself in getting that done. You can go, look, I'm going to aim to do an hour a night, and we're going to try and get these 50 models done by 6 months. The event that that we're going to in 6 months' time, how long will that take? What standard am I wanting to get them to? How much is that feasible? Do I just need to get them battle ready and such as well? And you can kind of set your own benchmarks, set your own expectations, and then you can reflect on that, make some additional notes to learn for next time, and use this as a tool to improve as a hobbyist over time as well, so that you're not just staying in the one spot as a hobbyist, because I can tell you these two things have been some of the external factors that have really pushed some of my hobbying in some great directions going forward as well. So really, when it comes down to it, hobbying journals are a great tool. I really enjoy using them. I like keeping them up to date because it allows me to reflect in the mid-year about what I've been trying to do for the year, projects I've been working on and such, whilst also being able to keep track of my purchases. What have I actually got that I need to work on? What have I got that I still need to start working on? Or what have I actually completed over the years, and being able to keep that up to date as well is really a good method and a good tool, I think, to personally have in your hobby arsenal, just to keep track of your projects, as well as also keeping track of your color schemes and your painting methods in terms of how you do things. You could note, okay, I'm going to dry brush this particular section, whether that's, you know, might be plasma glow and you've got the colors you need to say dry brush next to it, or you could say edge highlight and you know, say the armor edge highlight as well. So there's a lot of things you can do in these, and it's really up to each hobbyist to kind of come up with the way that they go about it. But I really think that having both a painting recipe book, or painting journal as you could call it as well, and a hobbying journal really does help just keep you thinking and getting your thoughts down on paper when it comes to getting your hobbying throughout the years as well. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so that is going to be it for this From Sprue to Tabletop video. Now, I know it was pretty quick in terms of just going through the journals and just showing you what I do and why I do it. Really hope that you get a lot of information out of this one, and that, you know, you're able to take away what you want to take away in terms of whether you are going to start doing a painting journal or a painting recipe book, as well as maybe even a hobbying journal, and just keeping track of what you've been working on hobbying wise as well. Now, I want to thank everyone who has been subscribing on the YouTube channel as of late. It's been really appreciated for you guys, and I hope you are enjoying the content. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like down the bottom. If there was any questions you had around hobbying journals or anything in general when it comes to this side of the hobby, feel free to ask me down in the comment section below. And if you want to keep up to date about the content we are creating here on the ATWN, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified as to when we are creating content here on the network. Also, if you do have any hobbying questions you do want to ask us when we are live doing hobbying sessions with myself on the ATWN, make sure you head over to Twitch and drop a follow on the Australis TWN Twitch channel so you're able to be notified when we do go live with a stream, whether it's going to be tournament coverage, tournament preview, hobbying sessions with myself, a South Pacific ITC snapshot, or the myriad of other content we might have on the network coming in to the new year. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.